Hello, strangers and friends. My name is Grace, and welcome to episode 24 of Sometimes I Make Things, a making podcast primarily about knitting, but we do other things too. I think it's especially fitting that this is episode 24 because the topic for today is everything I made in 2024. So how about that? A few things before we get into it. First, this gentleman over here by my shoulder is Whitaker, the cockatiel. He's 13, 14 years old. He likes to talk. I don't think he's actually made an appearance before on the podcast, so we're gonna see how it goes. If he's yapping too much while I'm trying to yap, he might have to go to jail. That being my parents' bedroom. The second order of business is what am I wearing today for my knit fit? Today I'm actually wearing something that I don't wear very often, but very recently fell back in love with. This is the Free For All Cowl. I put the designer's name down below because it's escaping me right now. And I knit this in some hand-dyed yarn that I got as a sentimental keepsake after I completed a placement in a small rural town in Ontario. So it's named after the Aurora Gorge. Aurora Gorgeous is the name of the color. Unfortunately, I don't believe the dyer's active anymore, and it was sold as a special skein for the yarn store that is also no longer in Aurora. So it's a very sentimental skein to me about a particular time in my life, and I also think it's just simply gorgeous. And the Free For All Cowl, I knit 2 of these. It's a lovely pattern. I honestly might knit another one this year because I just think it's a great pattern. I'm typically not someone who wears a lot of neck knits, and that's one of my 2025 goals actually, is to become a neck knits person, because I really like knitting them, but then I just don't wear them. So I'm going to try to change that because I think this is a vibe. I think it's nice. And I also have on this side a little friend over here who we will get into talking about later. The third order of business is I am using a microphone today. So in my last podcast episode, vlog, etc., I went to Montreal and I interviewed my 2 friends, Dennis and Reed, about different knitting terms and if they knew what they meant. Spoiler, they generally didn't, but it was very funny. So I will link that up here, recommend you watch it. That was the first video I ever used a microphone in, and then this is the first kind of sit down and chat that I'm using the microphone. So I'm hoping the audio is nice and clear, but it's going to be a bit of an adventure. I'm trying to up my skills this year, so we will see how that goes. But let me know what you think if you are a returning viewer, if you think this is more clear than my previous videos where I was just using my phone microphone. As far as this channel goes, this will be the 4th year that I'm doing my little everything I made, everything I knit in this year video. I'm thinking I'm going to make a separate playlist of just those videos, so if you want to look back on previous years and what I've made, that'll be easy to do. I also have a playlist that's just every podcast episode, vlog episode that I have made so far, so if you want a little company while you fold your laundry or do some knitting or just want to hang out, you can put that playlist on. You can watch my entire library of content. So I will have those linked probably at the end of the video, or if I can link a playlist up here on this side, I think it is, I will do that as well. And yeah, let me know what you think. For today, I'm going to be using my knitting journal as a reference because I like to keep track of everything I do in the year knitting wise, as well as how I'm feeling about my knitting, future plans in a journal format. I feel like it's just more personal than the online formats, though I do like to use those as well. So I'm gonna have my little book in front of me here and I'm gonna reference it as we go through. But with that, I think we're ready to crack on. Let's get into it. My very first project of 2024 was the 2x2 hat by Anne Gagnon. I knit this in February when I was doing my little knit every day for the month, what did I learn, little challenge for myself. This used just under 2 skeins of swish worsted. So if you wanted to make this hat as well, this color I believe is called Serene, which I think it's just such an excellent color. I really have been thinking blue a lot this year. Dark blue's been calling to me like no other. I love this hat. It's probably one of my most worn knits that I've ever made. It fits very nicely. It's very soft. I think it's held up well to wear. This is actually the second 2x2 hat made. I made one previously in the same yarn, except in highlighter yellow for my boyfriend Tristan. So it was very cute that we had the date where we were walking around in Barrie on the lakeshore and we had our matching hats on, and it's been very cute. I love it. Highly recommend this pattern. It's a free pattern. It's simple. It's effective. It's got nice crown decreases there. And yeah, that's the story I have for this hat. My second finished object for 2024 was the Floret socks by Makenzie Alvarez. She's Hanks and Needles for her designer name. And I finished these in March. I hope they're looking okay on camera. I definitely wear these a lot, and I don't think I washed them since I last wore them, because I'm just that girl sometimes. But these are fantastic socks. I think I'm gonna pop in some footage of these just separately, because it's a little hard to show holding them up in the air. These have a beautiful lace panel detail. They've got this nice floral motif up at the top. The ribbing flows gorgeously into it, and these little squiggles on the side. I love these socks so much. I think they're so beautiful. The yarn I used for this was BFL fingering. I think it's like an 80-20 nylon BFL mix. It's from Les Garçons, and the color is called Pepper's Mint. And I got this from the Knitting Loft in Toronto. They were having a sale on top of a sale, so I think I ended up getting this yarn for like half off, which is great. It was my first time using BFL, which is really nice for socks. It's very crisp, it has good stitch definition, it holds up well to wear. I definitely would like to knit more with BFL in the future, but as of right now, this is the only thing I've knit in BFL. Blue-faced Leicester, which is a sheep. Makenzie, as a designer, really cares about making potato chippy projects. So it's that kind of knitting where you're like, oh, I can't put this down, just one more row. And 100% she nailed it with this one. These were so fun to make, and despite looking complex and very fancy, it's actually a really intuitive, easy to follow pattern. Once you understand how the pattern works, I didn't need to look at a pattern anymore. I could just go along with it. So I love that, because when people saw me knitting these out in public, they'd be like, wow, you're doing that without a pattern? You're so smart, you're so talented. And I was like, thank you, I am. My third finished object for 2024 is a knockoff Sophie shawl. Ta-da! It even shamefully still has some stitch markers left on it, so oops. So the Sophie shawl was exploding in popularity, I think even in 2023 or 2022, if I'm remembering correctly. But basically I had a yarn that I wanted to use, and I was just going to use that yarn until it ran out. So I didn't really feel the need to buy the Sophie shawl pattern, because I was going to be doing my own gauge and I was going to be doing my own size. So it didn't really matter to me what the actual Sophie shawl is. So I used the pomegranate shawl, which is from Drops Design, just as a basis of how to get started. And then I knit doing increases. I think I did every 8. Yeah, I did increases every 8 rows until I came to about halfway of the yarn that I had, and then I started doing decreases every 8 rows with an I-cord edge. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with the result. This yarn I bought at the end of February 2024, so good on me for buying yarn and using yarn all within the calendar year. This is knit in Estelle DK in a white color, and then I used Lichen and Lace's Marsh Mohair in the bouquet colorway. And I bought this on my last visit to the Orono yarn store, which is a yarn store I've loved for a long time. They're called Sopper Creek Yarn, and they've moved to an online only format. It's just what works for the owner at this point in her life and her business journey. So it was my last time visiting them. So sentimental for that reason. And then this was also, I believe, the first yarn that I bought in the new year to celebrate having knit every day for the month of February. So I love this. Knitting this was an absolute joy. Garter stitch for the win. Garter stitches goat. It's just such a calm, fun, easy thing to knit. And I haven't worn it at all. I think that's because mohair does kind of irritate me a bit. I kind of like to have a barrier between me and mohair. So a scarf being wrapped around your neck, it's kind of irritating. That being said, I'm probably going to tough it out and start wearing this, because mohair traps heat very nicely. So it's getting cold, like today is minus 19 Celsius. So a scarf like this would actually do really nicely for a good little hike out in the woods. I also think it's one of the prettiest things I've ever knit. It's got these pinks and yellows and purples and blues. The marshmallow hair bouquet, gorgeous, gorgeous color. So yeah, I think it's just so pretty, and I feel like I don't normally knit things that are pretty like this. So I should get into wearing this more, and I love it. I just, as evidenced by the fact there's stitch markers still on it, haven't worn it. With the stitch markers, I put in a stitch marker every day that I was able to work on this project, so it's not about increases. So I believe it took me 21 different knitting days to make this. So I did kind of like leaving in the stitch markers because it just reminded me of when I knit this, and I could be like, oh, I knit like a foot of this scarf one day. I must have had a nice time for knitting that day. So I will take them out because no one wants to wear a scarf with stitch markers in it still. But it does just remind me of the process of this knit and how much I enjoyed it. I didn't have any finished objects in the month of May, but in June I finished these heel tab shorties. So the heel tab is my favorite shorty sock. It is the only shorty sock that I knit because I think they're great. So rather than having ribbing up at the top, it's a folded over cuff with this lovely tab, so they're easy to pull on. And then I like to do a nice slip stitch heel flap, do my gusset, go from there. I made up this ray pattern in a pair of socks I previously knit. I think it was 2023. And I saw someone use these exact colors to knit a similar sock that was from one of the 52 Weeks of Socks books, I believe. And I was very inspired by that. So I bought this yarn in like February or January 2022, and I finally got around to knitting it in 2024. And I love these socks. This yarn is Jawol's Lang yarns, those small sock, I can't words, 20 gram, there we go, 20 gram skeins of Jawol that you can get. So yeah, these pair of socks I was able to make with one skein of this black and white marl and then one skein of the neon yellow. I have tons of neon yellow left, so I like the idea of incorporating little bands of neon yellow into future socks just for a little color pop, like around the cuff, having just like one stripe of yellow in there, maybe two, I think would look really cool. So I love yellow. Definitely will be knitting more of these heel tab socks in the future. I love them. They're perfect. They're exceptional. Pearlbug on her blog was where I got that from. And then I just used my own vanilla sock recipe from there. Tons of wear out of these. Everything. Jawol yarn. It's great. 10 out of 10. No notes. Also in the month of June, I finished my 5th FO of the year, and that was this lovely little friend. I haven't knit anything quite like this before. This is the mandrel pattern from Knit Your Own Zoo, which is a book I got from my local library. Check your local library for knitting books. They are great for that. And many other things too, of course. I knit this for my dad as a Father's Day present. He used to work with mandrels many, many years ago, so whenever I see them, they remind me of him, and I saw this pattern and thought it would be a fun challenge to do. I love the butt so much. And there you go. This was the first time I ever did loopy stitch, and loopy stitch does make an appearance later on in the year. And yeah, I don't think I've actually made a knit animal before. No, I'm totally lying. I knit a duckling. What's wrong with me? But something this complexity I definitely haven't done before, and it really was tedious. It took me a while to do, and I got annoyed making it, but I also loved making it because it's just so different from anything else that I've done. I also included some wire armature in this guy, so he is able to stand on his own 4 feet. And he's got these big goofy eyes from Chateau Bornase, which I bought these craft eyes at Fergus Fiber Festival, one of my favorite fiber festivals that happens here in Ontario. And he just looks so plaintive and goofy, and I love him so much. And got a good laugh out of my dad when he opened it up on Father's Day. So I'm very proud of this one, and I think it's got a place of honor on the bedside table, always on display. We love that. This little guy was made with a variety of yarn scraps, just some like black cascade yarn, some purple mohair, red yarn. Oh, the blue on his face is from the Floret socks, that same BFL. And then this kind of heavier weight mohair yarn that I thrifted. I think the name of the yarn was Bouquet, actually. It was terrible to knit with. I hated it. It was so grippy. But it gave the effect that I wanted, so I'm happy with it in the end. And plans for 2025, might as well mix those into this video. But I want to knit more creatures in 2025 because this is a palette cleanser. Let me tell you, doing something fiddly like this, socks, hats, sweaters, they feel very refreshing after making something like this. Simpler animal patterns though, as actual palette cleansers. Just make yourself a cute little bird, make yourself a little friend, make them a little sweater. It's wonderful. We deserve it. I didn't finish anything in July 2024, but in August I finished FO number 6, which is the Tulsta vest. And I have to admit, this is probably my messiest FO of the year. Can I call it an FO if I don't have my ends woven in? And once again, stitch markers? But spiritually, this is an FO for me. I obviously haven't worn it yet because it's got threads hanging off of it. But in the end, I wasn't just happy with the size that I ended up knitting. So overall, Tulsta vest, Tulsta tank, there's a few different versions the pattern offers. I believe 3 different shaping options. It's a very versatile pattern from Creabea, Rebecca Cowl designs. And I think it has a lot of potential. It's just, she had a sample photo that she posted a year before the design came out, and I just loved the way it looked on her. It was black, it had just the perfect amount of positive ease, and I loved it so much. So I very much was inspired to knit a black one when the pattern came out. There was a Tulsta Time knit along, which was hosted on Instagram and Ravelry, so I was very excited about all that. And I knit it up, and I like the yarn combo. It's Camarose Pima Bold cotton, and then Tencel, just some black Tencel yarn that I got from a vendor at a local market. So it's a very nice feeling fabric. It's cool to the touch. This would be great for the summer months, but it just didn't have the right amount of positive ease for me. So it's a more close fitting than I had envisioned it. So I'm sure I can still style this and love it, etc. But I finished it and I put it on and I just realized it wasn't exactly what I wanted. And I probably should have just done more test try-ons along the way. I did not knit a gauge swatch, so it's entirely possible that my gauge is off. I just jumped in and I was so confident that I knew what I was doing and I just started knitting. Which, classic maneuver. So it does fit, it does work, it just wasn't exactly what I wanted, which is on me. I should know better. So yeah, it might need a little tweaking along the way. Currently, I don't have any ribbing on the sleeves because I like the idea of the sleeves being as large as possible, but I might go back and add some ribbing in, but I'm happy with it being a raw edge for now. And yeah, I think when we get to the warmer months, I'm going to give this a second chance. Right now, it's so cold, the thought of wearing any kind of tank top doesn't matter. It's just not relevant. It doesn't apply here in Canada. So I'm leaving it at that for now. What I did like about this pattern is that it does have bust shaping included in it, so it gives you just a little bit more space if you need it. There's multiple different cup sizing options. So Rebecca really puts the time in, puts the work in to make a good pattern, but doesn't matter how good a pattern is if you don't make a gauge swatch and you don't check to confirm that it fits you. That's just on knitters. I'm planning on falling in love with this summer 2025. It's just when I finished it in August and it wasn't perfect, I was like, can't look at this, can't think about this right now. So yeah, she's a bit of a mess, but good potential, good fabric, and yeah, we'll get back to it. You just know that 2024 got busy for me because I didn't finish anything from August all the way until November. So my next finished object of the year were these lovely self-drafted fingerless mittens. I love these. I knit these using Nitka British wools, which I thrifted at my local thrift store for like $1. So this yarn cost me $1. I was very excited about that. A friend and I at the end of October decided to do a little hand warmer knit along. So they crocheted rather a really cool pair of fingerless gloves that involve like a circular design, super cool. And then I made these puppies. So with this, I just cast on a certain amount, I knit a certain amount, and then I created a bridge to create the thumb. So I didn't actually do a gusset to make the thumb. I just knit a certain width, basically cut this section off, and then continued on knitting. And I did this lovely raised diagonal design to it, which I had learned from a pattern I was knitting at the time, the Apis dorsata shawl. We will get back to that later. And I really like that lifted traveling stitch look. So I just did, I think they're separated by 5 stitches, and then you do a 2-stitch twist and carry that along. The other thing that I liked about these guys is I did them so they were mirrored. So the diagonal lines head inward when held up like this, I guess, or I guess, it's inward, inward facing. I just think they have a lot of good character to them. They're very cozy. It is a coarser wool, but that doesn't bother me on my hands, and I think it's good for generating warmth, because kind of an itchy fabric, it does encourage blood flow to the surface of your skin, so it does make you feel warmer. I do kind of wonder if that makes you lose heat faster, but it brings the blood up to the surface because your skin's being agitated, and that makes it feel warmer. That's why stuff like those Lopi sweaters are so warm. They really trap in heat, but they also give you a little scrub down, make you feel warmed up. I've worn these a ton. I treat these like my driving gloves. I often keep them in my car because I still feel like I can have a good, safe grip on the wheel with my fingers, whereas when you're wearing full mittens, sometimes it's a little dicey if you're actually holding on that well to the wheel. So I like that this keeps my hands warm, but still feel safe to drive. And I love the color, deep blue. It was speaking to me. Do a smash cut. Yeah, different shades of blue, but I do like how these two look as a knit look together. Super happy with these. Also a 10 out of 10. I probably won't make these again because they were situational, but I'm super happy that I have them. For my 8th finished object of 2024, it was crunch time. It was November. Christmas was coming. And I made, probably this is the knit that I am the most proud of the year. She's stunning. Stunning. So clearly this is a bit of a shape callback to the knockoff Sophie shawl that I made earlier in the year. Similar, but different. This is the Apis dorsata shawl. It's available in Knitty Mag, which is a free online magazine that every quarter does free patterns. They pay and compensate the designers for those patterns, and they offer really good opportunities for designers to get started, to start publishing. Stephen West years ago posted some patterns in Knitty. So a lot of really good patterns in the Knitty archives. Highly recommend Knitty. So this is Apis dorsata, and typically this pattern is knit more in a kerchief style, like a half square where you're increasing every round, every other round, every round. But I really liked the long skinny look, and I figured my mom, who I was knitting this for, would as well. So this is heavily modified. I did not follow the charts. I basically just learned how to knit this beautiful hexagon design and incorporating the garter area. And I just riffed, just as I knit, threw in a hexagon here, threw in a hexagon there, made it work. It was fine. So I learned through the Apis dorsata pattern, and then I played jazz with my knitting. This is knit in Momonoki sock yarns. The color is called Honeybee, which I thought was perfect for a bee honey themed shawl. And I really like incorporating as much symbolism as possible in knits like this. I did an I-cord edge on this guy, which I don't feel like I did the greatest job on the I-cord edge because, as you can see, there is a fair bit of curling that does happen with it. I think it was too tight and too loose, all in the wrong places. So I would do the I-cord edging differently in the future. This was done over 4 stitches, and I think 4 stitches was just 1 stitch too long for this I-cord. So it is what it is. It's not that noticeable when it's wrapped around your neck. Yeah, I mostly worked on this at my new job that I got this year after graduating college in 2024. It's a really big year for me. So I kept this a secret. I bought the yarn in February. My boyfriend helped me pick the color, and then I kept it a secret and finished it in November and gifted it to my mom for Christmas. So it really was a labor of love, and I spent a lot of 2024 thinking about planning and making time to knit this for her. So it was really big payoff when I gifted it to her on Christmas Day, and she's worn it frequently since then. And yeah, her favorite color is yellow. She loves bees, and I just wanted to knit her something. So it's probably my crowning achievement of the year was knitting this guy. Yeah, it's really nice to knit for loved ones. I don't really want to knit for other people that much. Like 2025, I'm really claiming the title of selfish knitter. Already kind of violating that. It's midway through January and I'm knitting something for somebody. But in general, I'm not taking any requests. This is for me. I do this for me. But it's nice to surprise someone with something knitted, and something like a shawl is a really good surprise gift because it doesn't matter what size it is. As long as it goes around the person's neck comfortably, it's good. It's perfect. So really nice to do that, and very happy with this guy here. My 9th FO of the year, also finished in December, is lovely little Edgar over here. I've named this guy Edgar the Bellwether. Bellwether is, it's kind of like a sign of what's to come when we use it in modern English speech, but the etymology of it is a bellwether is a castrated male sheep, which is called a wether, that would wear a bell, and its job would be to guide the herd. So it's leading the trends, it's showing the way. So lovely little Edgar here does have a bell, so he is a bellwether. And I was really hoping that Edgar would lead the way to happier times. I was going through a mentally rough patch. I was feeling very tired of everything that was going on. I was feeling overstimulated, overwhelmed, and I was like, you know what? I need a palette cleanser. I need to knit something small. I need to knit something cute. I need to knit something that will make me happy. This pattern is called Cozy Sheep Cozy, and it's meant to actually be a cover for a soft-boiled egg. So, you make a soft-boiled egg, it would keep it warm until you eat it. It's not a problem I have, keeping my eggs warm. I eat them pretty quickly. But that was the concept for the design. So what I did instead is I modified it. Instead of having it be basically a hat for an egg, I sewed him shut. I left a little bald patch on his back. I attached a brooch pin. Yeah, I attached a brooch pin, and I added a little bell on the bottom, but otherwise followed the pattern. And I love it. I love it. I knit this in fingering yarn that I picked up at the thrift store. I have no idea what the yarn is. It is super soft. I think it's a bear wool, but I have no idea. It's lovely. It was 50 cents, and it's so nice. So it was so low stakes to knit this guy because it took me a couple evenings to make. Low stakes worked. Lots of loopy stitch, which I felt myself trying to rush through, and then it was like, you don't need to rush to make this. Take your time. Make each of those loops. Make them perfect. Have fun with it. Make the tiny, tiny little ears. Put the eyes in the perfect spot. Embroider a little face. It's low stakes. This is just for you. There's no deadlines involved. And honestly, super therapeutic. Super therapeutic. Make something small and cute and frivolous, just for fun. It's really good for the brain. I'm super happy I made him, and he's gonna be my little buddy. So I'm hoping 2025, go to some fiber festivals. Edgar's coming. Edgar is seeing everything I see at the fiber festival, and Edgar will be offering his opinions on them. And I love him so much. He's so sweet. I don't know if I'm gonna make more brooches, but I can just appreciate that brooch is such a good piece of jewelry for knitters because it can act as like a shawl pin. You can put it on your knitted sweaters and it's fine because you don't need to worry about holes being poked by pins in your knits. Knitting is intrinsically full of holes. So it works out great. I love him so much. He makes me so happy every time I see him with his goofy little face. Edgar. Drum roll, please, for the 10th and final FO of 2024, down to the wire, Christmas gift. Christmas gift times 2 because I tried giving it in 2023, but finally actually gave it in 2024. The one, the only, the custom kiwi sweater. Da, 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 da. The kiwi sweater. I have made a whole YouTube video about making this last year, and I didn't finish making it last year, so womp womp to that. But if you're interested in the process and the story and the thoughts all behind the kiwi sweater, please go check out this video that I spent a lot of time making. Kiwi sweater. This is knit in Briggs & Little, which is a Canadian wool mill. I believe it's the oldest wool mill in the country. It's still operational. It used to be family owned. So this is all Canadian wool, Canadian made. My mom picked out the colors and I knit the sweater. I think I finished in 2023. I was at about here or so, and it was Christmas Eve. And I was like, you know what, I just can't finish this. So I took all the pieces, I put them in a box, and I gave the box to my dad for Christmas, and he opened it up. We had a good laugh over it. And it took me until about September 2024 before I was willing to pick it up and look at it again. And it was fine. I was really intimidated by making the neck. This pattern, I should say, is Strange Brew by Tin Can Knits, but it's heavily modified because Strange Brew is a yoke Fair Isle design sweater, and this is not a yoke sweater. This is a set and sleeve drop sweater. So I really was riffing. I wasn't going off of a pattern. I just used Strange Brew basically for the size of the sleeves and the size of the body, as well as to help with charting out the patterning. I did all the patterning from scratch. I pretty much one-shotted it. I hate frogging, so I just went for it, and I'm really happy with how it turned out, all things considered. It has a folded over ribbed neck, which I think just adds that cozy factor. It's a little bit large on my dad, but if he wants to wear like a hoodie underneath, which he does like to do, this is going to be a great outerwear sweater for him. And there's a fun story behind it all because my dad used to have a sweater that looked quite a bit like this in the early 2000s that he bought at a thrift store, and it was his favorite sweater. And then my mom accidentally put it through the dryer and felted it down until it was unwearable. And it has been a contentious topic in their relationship ever since. So in 2022, if I remember correctly, the idea started percolating in my mind that maybe I should make the kiwi sweater. And then in 2023, my mom was like, hey, should we make the kiwi sweater? And we had this moment of, we were both thinking the same thing. So we tried to make it happen. Crunch time happened. Didn't end up finishing it, but that's fine because I gave it to him 2024 Christmas. So this involved so many skills, stranded color work, in the round and flat, intarsia, duplicate stitch, include duplicate stitch as well. So it really challenged and pushed me. I hadn't done a set in sleeve like this before. So actually like sewing pieces together. This was a genuine push on my skills and ability as a knitter, and I'm really happy with it. I think it's going to last for many, many years. It feels sturdy. I think I did a really good job. I'm really proud of it. And if my dad ever says that he doesn't want it, I will be very upset, and I will take it and I'll happily wear it because I think this is such a fun, kooky, personality-filled sweater. I think it's just phenomenal. And I love that there's a family story that goes into it, the 20-year redemption of the kiwi sweater, as it were. And there you have it, friends. Those are the 10 finished objects that I made in 2024. It definitely was a strange year for me. I know I did finish knitting a sweater in 2024, but I didn't start and finish a sweater or make a sweater for myself in 2024, which is unusual for me because I do really like knitting sweaters is my favorite thing to do. So that felt like a little bit of a gap. I also had longer stretches where I just couldn't finish anything. I couldn't work on anything. So I felt a bit stagnant. And then I had a couple pieces that I made that I just wasn't 100% happy with. So it did feel like overall an odd year, but considering I finished college, I graduated, I got my first job in the field, and I've been working that job, and then I took my licensing exams and studied and did my trainings. A lot happened for me in 2024, and I was kind of feeling like I didn't really achieve much in my knitting life, But looking back, it's like, no, it's a very reasonable amount that you did, and you made gifts for people and you made stuff for yourself. And yeah, overall, I'm happy with it, though I will say this was a strange year for me. 2025, now that I'm feeling a little more stable, this is the first year in a really long time that I'm not going to be in school, and that's really exciting, but also strange to think about. And I'd like to use what extra time I have to really double down on my knitting. That's what the girl wants. I'd like to do a little bit more with my YouTube. I do have a goal to try to make a video per month. That didn't happen in 2024. I was really busy, but I think it could happen for 2025. I have some ideas that I've been working on. I'd like to get into a little bit more of making the reels, TikToks, etc. I'm not on TikTok, but you know, that short vertical video format, I'd like to post more on YouTube Shorts, I guess is what I should say. I've really appreciated what this community has offered me socially, especially during the pandemic years. It was really isolating and really sad, and the knitting community, knitting world, knitting social media really gave a lot to me when I was in some pretty low places. So I want to keep pushing for that. I want to try to get more involved, and starting 2025 really nicely with joining a Cowl, the pet parade, and that's been really fun. So I'm trying to just grab onto that energy with both hands, that I want to push for more socialization and more connection this year, and putting myself out there more on knitting internet. Hopes and dreams for 2025 aside, to close things out for 2024, I had a little 2024 breakdown that I put at the end of my book here. So in the end, I made 10 items. We went through them. 1 hat, 2 scarves, 2 pairs of socks, 1 top, 2 creatures, 1 pair of fingerless mitts, and finished a sweater, but no properly start to finish sweater. I used about 15 skeins of yarn. It's kind of hard to calculate something like the kiwi sweater, which used lots of bits and bobs, but let's say I used/took about 15 skeins out of my stash for the year. I didn't talk at all about my spinning, but I did get a spinning wheel this year, and I am hoping to make a video about that whole process of getting the wheel. I thrifted a whole bunch of spinning fibers in 2024, which has been super exciting. So spinning is another thing that I want to push more out and talk more about. So keep your eye out for a video about learning to spin on a wheel. But I did 2 spins in 2024, and I'm very proud of them, and I'm looking forward to knitting with them in 2025. They are high up on the queue. I want to start knitting with handspun, and I want to start making more handspun 2025. I am going into 2025 with 8 works in progress, one of which is a crochet blanket, which is turning 10 years old in February. Realistically, I'm not finishing it by its 10th birthday, which was a goal, but I really want to finish it in 2025. I started this blanket in 2015. It deserves to be done and out of my closet and onto my bed. So I have a lot to work on ahead of me. I have so many projects lined up and planned. And another thing for 2025 is I really want to try to not buy any yarn in 2025. I know it's easy to say in January. Get back to me in October. But I've really realized that I have everything that I need, and rather than holding back some yarn, be like, no, I can't knit with this, it's intended for something else, doesn't matter. Just doesn't matter what it's intended for. Use it for what you want to use it for. Anyway, we could go on. But yeah, 2024, not a bad year, not my best year, but not a bad year. And I'm really excited for what's to come in 2025. So stay tuned for some more videos coming down the pipeline. In August, I filmed a knitting flops video, so about knits that I just didn't feel like were my best and what I would do differently about them, so stay tuned for that one. I have a spinning video, that whole process one I mentioned already, that's coming down the line. And then I also would probably like to do a video about my stash, maybe all the yarn I bought in 2024, what I'm planning to do with it, etc. Go from there. But I'm excited for what's to come, and I hope that you've enjoyed hanging out with me for however long this video ended up being. I thought it was going to be a short video, but I have a feeling that it's gotten long. And thank you for being here. Anyway, with that, take care. Bye, friends.